So hopefully now, as you can see, what I've done is I've sketched out all of the shapes using my mechanical pencil. So I've got lots of lines. Every shape has, of course, my center line to plot where that shape should go. And I haven't been worried about lines crossing over, lines intersecting, or incorrect lines in any way. Okay, because this is all done with a blue pencil. We use blue for a particular reason. The blue will sit behind black as a layer, naturally with your eye. Black is the most dominant colour, and the blue has a nice way of working with the black and sitting behind it. It's almost like, I would say, if you're used to using something like Photoshop or Illustrator with layers, or even an app now like Procreate and all of the different layers, and that you can overlay something. Almost, if we said it traditionally, like having a piece of tracing paper over the top and using black over the top so everything then fades. That's why I like blue. The other reason as well is that it doesn't rub out, which also I find as an advantage because it then shows all of the working out, okay? Very much like if we were doing maths, and to get to the answer, you show all of the logical steps. So the next thing here really now would be just to make sure that I define any of my lines to make it clear exactly what I'm going to be fine lining, and just to make sure that the shapes I'm happy and correcting and thinking about, right, like on this one here, is this angle correct? Because this has got a nice angle, whereas this side actually, it looks a little bit flat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a new line on there because that didn't look right to me. So if I just open that up a little bit more, that's going to look better. And when I fine line and then when I add marker, this blue line will disappear a lot more and you won't notice it. You notice it now because I'm telling you to notice it, but beyond that you won't notice it. So my sheet is pretty much now ready to start looking at adding the fine line pen. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit there just to remind myself on this that when I come to do this, the lines that I'm actually going to highlight, and I'm just going to add a round on here where this part joins in here. So the two pens that I've got ready to use for fine lining, exactly the same pen as I showed earlier, Japanese Unipin. I've got two versions. I've got 0.3 and 0.8. So the simple rule, we're going to apply the rule of thick and thin lines, and that is easy to do in that if you just remember that all outer lines, and this is particular for 2D sketching as well, all outer lines will be thick, so 0.8, all inner lines will be thin, 0.3. And what we want to do is actually put all of our construction lines in, and we're going to do that because by adding the construction lines in, it actually helps with adding the tone. So you can do it one of two ways. You can go around all edges with a thin line and then overlay with the thicker pen, so you've got the thicker outline, or you can just do the thin lines to begin with and then do the thick lines afterwards. The trick with using a fine line pen, if I just bring in another sheet, is also the angle of the pen when you add the fine line. If I hold a pen as I would a pencil at an angle like this and sketch a line, it's very thin. If I hold the pen vertically, it gives a thicker line, but exactly the same pen. So I could even do the entire sheet with one pen if I do thin lines at an angle and thicker lines vertically. But of course, if I use a thicker pen and do the vertical lines, I actually get a slightly thicker line again. And so then the contrast between this line and the thin line is bigger, and that's actually what we're after. So you make that decision on how you want to do it. In this instance, what I'm going to do my thin lines first. So again, what I want to do is get my sheet and my pad at the right angle, so I'm happy that it feels comfortable to sketch, and then I'm just going to sketch. So a little tiny bit more control perhaps than we used with our mechanical pencil. Nice and light and controlled, not too slow so we get wobbly lines because we don't like that, but at a good overall kind of controlled speed. Okay, so we're looking at, as you can see at the moment, I'm just looking at putting all of my center lines in, nice and thin, or any vertical lines that are similar that will also be thin. Okay, these two here would be thick, and even now you can see here, this bit is slightly wrong. I'm actually going to have to make a thicker line here. So just to remind myself of that, because I see it now, I'm actually just going to put that in, and I'll go over that with a thicker line. Thinner lines, any construction lines, so just like this. Okay, there's a construction line to guide the end of my work. And then of course, I'm just adding in further ones here as well. So we'll just add in this one quickly. And I'll just do the cube here at the end. And what I'm going to do here is just add in these guidelines. And these guidelines are really important for the rendering side. So then I'm going to switch my paper angle. I've got the same angle, look, as my marker pad. And what I'm going to do now is do the horizontal ones. So I, from my sitting position, haven't changed. I am comfortable. I'm sat in exactly the same place, haven't moved. And that is a nice, comfortable place for me to be able to sketch lines. So I'm actually going to do that one, and I'm just going to put that one in while I'm at the right angle. Okay, let's do this one, because it's important that when you do the thick and thin lines, one of the things sometimes the students forget is lines on the inside, and they forget to do them because they're so strict in, I want that to be a thin line, I want that to be a thick line, and then sometimes they have missing lines. Okay, important that you try to do all of the lines. And if some are a bit thicker than you want, again, doesn't really matter. I'm actually going to go over these construction lines here just to make them stand out. Just while I'm doing that, I'll do these ones as well as construction lines. Okay, so we've got some thin lines. I'm not going to do the whole sheet right now. And then let's add in our thicker lines. So when we come in to do this, we know that if we have the pen more vertically, we can do a thicker line. So let's do that. So let's start off here with some horizontal lines. So I'm going to hold my pen more vertically, more controlled, but not perfect. I'm not aiming to start and end at exactly like the intersection of the lines. I just want to do it to control, but I still have that sketched feel about my work. So on here, this one now, control. What I want to do on this one, of course, is add in the thicker line here and here as the outside part of my shape. So that's way more controlled, that little section. And again, we'll have more instances of that happening. So on this one, for example, top line is going to be thick. This remains thin. This remains thick here. Or this, sorry, not remains, is thick. Okay, let's also do the bottom. Okay, we've got our thicker line. And then this bit here, we've got thick to thin, thick to thin here. If the line looks a bit odd because it suddenly jumps to thin, then I suggest you just go over it once. And it will become slightly thicker, but not the full thickness. Let's also get that bottom line in as a thicker line. Okay, and so on. So we'll just quickly add in these other lines. Okay, and then with our cube at the end here, so the bits that I actually want to be thicker are between my inner square, my guidelines. So let's just more controlled, just like so. Then, of course, what I will do, exactly the same as I did before, turn my page, get my same angle, get my angle that I'm comfortable at working with. Okay, get my work in a position so I'm comfortable even for the video of sketching, more vertical line and controlled, controlled. Okay, and if the line goes slightly wrong, it doesn't matter. If the line's slightly wobbly, it doesn't matter. Okay, while I'm doing that, I may as well just do this one because it's there and I want to do it. So there we go. And I may as well, even though I missed it before, but let's put the thicker line in. But remembering that inner lines are thin, so don't use the same pen. Okay. And we can continue. Okay, and I don't want to bore you anymore, so what I'll do is I will just do these and speed up the video.